Ukraine's fight against the Russian invasion is now in a critical new phase. The battle for eastern Ukraine is underway and could be pivotal in the country's future. This is video from one of the eastern Ukrainian cities close to the front line. You can hear the rumble there of distant artillery. In their latest briefing, Ukraine's top generals say that Russian forces are attacking across the entire Ukrainian line in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, attempting to break through Ukrainian defenses. A defender shared video with the BBC News team of a bridge Ukrainian forces had blown up to slow a Russian advance. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the long-expected battle for Donbas is now underway.
Зараз вже можна констатувати, що російські війська розпочали битву за Донбас, до якої давно готувались. Дуже значна частина всієї російської армії зараз концентрована для цього наступу. Скільки б туди не згоняли російських військових, ми будемо боротись, ми будемо захищатись.
So there is Ukrainian President Zelensky as he spoke in his latest video address, acknowledging the assault is underway. Katie Simpson begins our coverage on this Tuesday morning. She's in Lviv in the west, but watching very closely events in the east for us. So, Katie, let's begin with what we know this morning about the fighting in eastern Ukraine.
It has intensified even further, Heather, if you can even imagine that. Overnight, Russian authorities are claiming they targeted and struck some 1,200 different locations in Ukraine overnight, primarily focusing on those targets in the eastern region. As we heard from President Zelensky last night, he declared that the battle for Donbas, it has begun. We've been anticipating this offensive from Russia when those soldiers were pulled out of the north as they abandoned their efforts to try and seize Kiev and try to take the capital and suburbs around it. Russian forces were moved from that area and refocused and now replenished on that eastern front as they try to take territory in the east. So we are watching that closely as the fighting only intensifies, and that is one major push taking part in Ukraine today, really ramping up overnight. Another concern that we are watching very closely is what's happening in the besieged city of Mariupol. There has been another ultimatum from Russian authorities urging the last remaining Ukrainian soldiers who are holding that steel plant. It's the last part of that city that remains under Ukrainian control. It's in an industrial neighborhood, and there are more than 1,000 citizens, we believe, at least 1,000 citizens, including children, women and children, hiding out in that facility. We're hearing that there is another ultimatum. The Ukrainian soldiers who are holding on to that plant, they're being told by Russian authorities they can lay down their arms and surrender or be killed. Last night, we heard from President Zelensky, who said and has repeatedly said throughout the duration of this invasion, particularly with such intense fighting in Mariupol, that the Ukrainian soldiers will continue to hold on. They will continue to fight. So people are waiting for word as to what is happening in Mariupol, whether Ukrainian forces can still hold on to that city. The shelling has been so intense in eastern Ukraine today, however, that humanitarian corridors, we are told, have been closed for the day because, again, the shelling is too intense and it's just too dangerous.
Katie, what we're hearing here is that it was another night of air raids there across the country, including in Lviv, where you are. And as we look at images of the aftermath to yesterday's attack, you were reporting yesterday at this time that Lviv had been targeted by Russian missile strikes, and it ended up being the first deadly attack of the war there. So what is the latest in Lviv this morning?
Well, what happened yesterday is a reminder that all of Ukraine is under attack, even though when you look at Lviv at the surface, and remember, this is just a surface view, you can see around me that life continues. There are buskers out on the street playing music. There are families out for walks. We just saw a little girl walk by with a Minnie Mouse balloon. People are out and still living their lives, even though we saw those deadly attacks yesterday. One thing, when we were speaking with people who live near that blast site, one thing that was consistent in what they told us is that they're now going to start being more serious, taking seriously those air raid sirens, because the air raid sirens here happened yesterday. I think there were 4 of them, if we account the ones that happened early in the morning. Over a 24-hour period, there were 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember anymore. But when they happen, unlike places in the east, unlike places in the south where the shelling has been really intense and the violence has been right in front of everyone's face at all times, here, because the violence hasn't been like that here, people don't necessarily panic and people don't necessarily seek the shelter and seek the cover that people do in other parts of this country. And so one thing that people said to us is they're going to start to take them more serious, that they are going to take cover if something like that happens, and they certainly are afraid. Lviv is a hub for it's in western Ukraine, and it has really become a humanitarian hub. Hundreds of thousands of people have fled Ukraine's east and south to come here where it's considered safer, but yesterday's attack absolutely terrified people here.
Katie, thank you very much.